Hi there, Prairie Plant Girl here. Well, there's something lurking in my garden and I need to take care of it. No, it's not these gorgeous, gorgeous tomatoes, though I do need to take care of those too. But what I'm talking about is powdery mildew. So every year I wind up with some powdery mildew in my garden. This might be the worst one. And part of that is because I've let it get away from me. There's a few things that you can do to take care of powdery mildew, and I'll share those with you. But first, let's have a look at what powdery mildew is. So some telltale signs of powdery mildew are these white splotches on the leaves. Now, all sorts of plants can get powdery mildew, but some of the ones that I find the worst are like melons, squash, cucumbers, things with these big leaves like this, pumpkins. You can also get it on your beans, your peas. So there's different types of powdery mildew, but the one I suffer with the most in my garden is the one that tends to attack these like squashes and melon family type plants, cucurbits. So they have this, all powdery mildew will have this kind of white splotches on the leaves, and sometimes you'll see it start out as kind of yellow mottling, and then it can turn to these white splotches. You can see it on the underside of the leaves. It's harder to tell, but there is some white splotches there, and it's kind of like a dust on the leaf. And when it gets really bad, it can just totally discolor your leaf, make it kind of a shiny silver, and they can get even worse looking than this. But it's blocking the sunlight from getting into your plant. It's cutting off kind of, everything the leaf is doing for the plant as far as getting nutrients to the plant, and slowly killing your plant. Some plants, like this sunstripe zucchini squash, have some natural mottling on their leaves, and it can be confusing to know if that's powdery mildew or something else, but it just doesn't have the same sheen, doesn't have the same look. But on the same plant, all of a sudden it's gone to the back of the leaf and it's really spotty, so you can see the difference between these two leaves. So at first I thought this plant was fine and didn't even notice powdery mildew creeping in. So you have to be a bit more vigilant with these, because all of a sudden they go from what they're supposed to look like to this quite quickly. And even to this. Look at that sick leaf. This plant's very ill. So powdery mildew is found naturally in the soil. It's a bacteria, I believe. I don't know. It's found naturally. It will occur in your garden at some point, guaranteed. It's carried very easily on the wind, and it's very common in hot, dry conditions like we get here in Saskatchewan, Canada. We don't often have a lot of humidity when we're getting a lot of heat in the summer. But on the flip side, it can also be found, some varieties are also found in very humid conditions. So it's almost guaranteed if you have a garden, you're going to wind up with some powdery mildew. So one of the best ways to help prevent or contain powdery mildew is to have good air circulation in your garden. And as you can see probably by looking at my garden, and if you follow my videos, I plant things really close together. That is going to give me more chance for things like powdery mildew to happen. That gives me more humidity buildup. It allows the spores to kind of get caught and trapped on the plants. It's falling off of the leaves and onto the rest of the plant, and it's not giving them that air circulation that they need. So one of the best things to do to help just kind of prevent or slow down the spread of powdery mildew is just to have really good air circulation. And a lot of times I try to keep things kind of pruned and managed in my garden, but I just haven't been staying on top of it this year. Another thing that you can do to try and help prevent powdery mildew from starting is to spray your plants. Now there's a few different things that you can spray with. Some of them are kind of they're kind of folk remedies that have been passed down from generation to generation, but they do seem to work. And one of them is using a milk spray, and another, you can just use like, you can use powdered milk and mix it up, or you can use like, if you have sour milk, or if you happen to have like cattle. And there's something about, I believe it's the enzymes in the milk that gets on there and kind of kills the powdery mildew. You can also use a spray that's a mix of baking soda and water, and I think that has to do with the pH. I've used both of those in the past. They do help to kind of slow things down, but you need to kind of get on top of it before there's pretty much a problem. Another thing that you can use is a sulfur spray. And a lot of people are going to go, sulfur, but it's not dangerous for you to use in the garden if you use it properly and appropriately. You can get the container. It'll tell you how to mix it to help with powdery mildew. With sulfur, you can't spray it on melons, and I think cucumbers as well. It can damage the plants, and there's times of day I think when you need to use it. I haven't used it in a few years now, so I can't quite remember all the details on that, but just read the container, mix it appropriately, and it will help. But with all of those sprays, the best way to do it is to do it kind of when you know that time of year is coming. Like for me, I should really start spraying things about mid-July, and then just keep spraying them about once a week to help prevent the spread of the spores from the powdery mildew around my garden and keep it under control. The next thing that you can do is, once you start to see the powdery mildew on your plants, you can go and you can prune them out. So this leaf here has a few bits of powdery mildew on it. You can see just down there. It's starting to show signs, so prune it out. Now you take them, you don't put these in your compost, you put them in the garbage. Now technically you can, I have composted it in the past. It is a naturally occurring, it's going to be in your garden anyways. But unless you're desperate for greens in your compost, you may as well just get rid of them. In your municipal garbage, you're just taking as much of that spore out of your yard as you can. That's kind of the main thing that you can do, and just watch. And it can travel right down the stems of the plants. So you might notice plants that are starting to get grain and mottling on the stem, and you need to take that out as well if you can. Now this can be hard to do. So I have a few plants I probably should have just removed entirely out of my garden early on, and I didn't do it, and I should have this year. The powdery mildew has been really bad. I have done a milk spray and I've done a baking soda spray, but again, I did them a little bit late, and I don't know, I've been kind of a neglectful gardener as far as stuff like that, and I'm going to pay the price for it now. One thing I did do is I went through with a lot of my squashes about 2 weeks ago now, I think it was, and I trimmed them all back really hard. So this plant was looking really bad a few weeks ago, and it was really overgrown anyways, so I just trimmed it back hard, and I took as much infected looking leaves off as I could and got rid of them. And it was looking pretty bare and sparse after that. I took off any vines that weren't bearing fruit, or didn't have small pumpkins started on them, and even a few that did, just to cut back and get more airflow around it and get as much of the infected plant out as I could. And I sprayed it and tried to hope for the best. But it's coming back on this plant now, and I do need to get rid of it. So I have a lot of plants that have powdery mildew on them. I'm going to go through now today, and most of them I'm just going to cut back, and I'm going to cut them back severely. Some of them, one for sure, I think I'm just going to have to remove entirely, and that's what I'm going to be doing to get rid of the powdery mildew. Now I have my clippers, my gloves, I have a bucket to put everything in, so I'm not just dropping it on the ground and collecting it later, and I actually have a can of Lysol. You can use like an alcohol-based wipe, you can use Lysol. You want something that's going to kill the spores, and you should be cleaning your gloves and your clippers, and I'll wash my bucket out when I'm all done and I've put everything in my municipal garbage. So I'm just going to get to work, and I'll try and just show you kind of the results in the end, maybe a bit of a before and after, and we'll just hope that it doesn't get too out of control and I can still get some harvest out of some of these squash plants. Okay, well, got a great big bucket off of that plant there. The problem is, I thought the vine for this went one direction and it went the other direction, and I just cut it off. So I'm not sure if this will ripen enough even for decoration out in my yard, but I'm going to leave it sit here because that's my only pumpkin, and I had cut everything else back. I was trying to save the one vine for this, and I did not. And that is the problem with severe cutting back, is you can have casualties. So I'm going to take this to my trash bin, and then I'm going to come back and have a look through the autumn frost squash back there. I don't think it has much, but I do think there's a few little leaves starting back there, so I just want to pull those leaves off and keep going through the garden, and hopefully I don't do any more of this. Not happy with myself. Not a good start. Okay, so there's the after on the autumn frost squash. I did actually find some squash in there, which I didn't think there was any. So there are a few in there, which is good news. And there wasn't, I mean, I cut it pretty severe, but compared to the rest of my garden, it's not looking too bad. So, and it's kind of over on its own, especially now that I've cut that other renegade pumpkin right off. So hopefully I can keep it going here without too many issues. Okay, so I'm over here at my tomato bed, and I have a Rouge Vif de Tempe in the middle of it and a sweetmeat squash on the fence behind it. Not good thinking on my part. You would think I had never gardened before. I had no idea how big these plants get. Don't know what I was thinking. Just sometimes, we get carried away. There's a hummingbird. It's my first hummingbird of the season. I don't know if you saw it just fly by me there. They always come this time of year here. Anyway, so I have never been able to get anything off of a Rouge Vif de Tempe. I really would like to grow one, but it's just not worth it anymore. It never produces anything for me. It always gets powdery mildew. That's something else you can do to prevent powdery mildew, is to just grow varieties that are resistant to it. I don't think there's any that are like fail-proof against it, but there are some that are resistant. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna give up on the Rouge Vif de Tempe because it's just an issue, and I think that's where it actually started in my garden. I'm gonna try and just yank it out of the center of all these tomatoes here without damaging everything else too bad. And then I'm going to selectively go through the sweetmeat squash because I really like it, and try and save the plant and just take as much of the leaves and stems off that I can get away with, and still have the squash that are developing on it to stay, and hopefully I can just keep it under control until the end of the season. We only have about a month left of our average frost-free time here, so if I can just kind of limp things through, that'd be a good thing. But I'm just going to go in and just massively attack this Rouge Vif de Tempe and just pull it out of here. It looks terrible. Okay, I went pretty severe in this this planting bed as well, and I may have caused another oopsie because, can you see that yellow squash back there? I don't think that's a sweetmeat, and I have 2 of them, but they're back here. I thought all of the Rouge Vif de Tente was going that way, but I think some of it was going this way, and I think it had the first ever Rouge Vif de Tente on it. So I've left those 2 squash there. A lot of the squash vines that are right on the ground, they'll put roots down, and they can still survive off those roots. So I'm not sure if these vines go to roots or not that are left on these fruit. There's one on this side and there's one on the other side of the bed, but I'm hoping that they are, and I can get some Rouge Vif de Tente just to try it and see what's going on with it here. So I've got that. I do have, I don't know if you can see it there, there's a sweetmeat squash right there, and another small one coming over there, but not a lot this year. Oh, there's another little one, oh well, actually it's a bigger one down there as well. So I should get at least a couple of sweetmeat squash, maybe some Rouge Vif de Tente, I don't know. But there's still lots more pruning to do here. But I need to go in, I need to get working on supper for my family here, and it kind of looks like there's a rainstorm moving in from the south. So I think I'm gonna have to put this project on hold for now, and hopefully I can get back at it tomorrow. It's just been we've had so much forest fire smoke coming down here that it's been just too hard for my health to be outside much this last few weeks. But the plan is to get things trimmed and pruned back as much as I can, and then I'll be coming in with a spray, and I think I have some sulfur. I'm pretty sure I have the right sulfur to use for this, so I'm going to look at what I have, and that is the most effective from what I've ever found. So I will, once I get things kind of cut back, I will come in and spray everything with a sulfur spray to try and just, like I said, try and get through these next like 6 weeks or so that we have. My average first frost is September 14th, and it's August 10th today. So I don't know, I have like four to 6 weeks, something like that, till I'll be more than likely having these plants die off from frost anyways. Hopefully you're not suffering through as worse of powdery mildew as I am. Hopefully you've gotten it under control already. But I thought, you know, it's good to see fails of other gardeners, and it's good to see these things if you have never encountered them before, or you don't know what it is when you do encounter it, or that there's things you could be doing. So don't leave it like I did this year. I don't know, it's just not, I haven't been as on top of things in the garden as I usually am, but yeah, there's a storm moving in here. But anyway, so yeah, just don't leave things like I did, and try and stay on top of it. I really need to write in my calendar to start spraying in July, because I think about it, you know, early in the summer, and then I don't remember to get going on it later on when I need to. But that really is something that will help immensely. And once I get done out here, I'm pretty sure I have it in my greenhouse too, and I'm not even sure I'm going to get to that stuff, because those plants that seem to be suffering from it are up against the windows, and I have a 3-foot wide bed before that's going to be really hard to reach in there and get to anything. But that's what I'm going to be hopefully working on for the next few days in my garden, as well as I'm sure you could see, not on this side maybe so much, but on the other side I have a ton of tomatoes that need to be harvested. And now that I got so much of that squash plant pulled out of here, I'll probably, there's more sun going to be coming and hitting these as well in the all day long, so these tomatoes will probably be doing better too. So yeah, lots of work to do in the garden, and I just need to stay on top of it all a little better. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.